All right, we are live. Welcome back to another edition of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I am your host, Todd Rosales, and welcome back to our lovely show, folks. We have a great one for you today. Part of the reason that I love doing this show so much is because I get to talk to folks from all walks of the industry. I've talked about it. This industry is so much more than just the people who cultivate and sell weed. There's hemp, there's CBD, there's other minor cannabinoids, there's medical, there's industrial, there's so many different parts of it. Now, one of the things I'm very excited about is as we start to destigmatize this plant, I think there are some really cool accessories and lifestyle businesses popping up around this industry. So a lot of those are in their infancy, and I am a big fan of that. So I think we're going to start doing a lot of these type of shows to bring you these companies that are really coming out of the blue to either support our industry or being dedicated to our industry. And I'm really excited about that. But before we get into the show, this episode is brought to you by Contempo Specialty Packaging. You guys know how I feel about packaging in this industry. It sucks. It's not good. You either get a crappy Mylar bag or you get something that has 7 layers between you and your product. There's a ton of waste. I understand there are compliance needs, but there are ways that we can do better. That's where we have people like Contempo Specialty Packaging that are making their offerings out of 100% hemp. Of course, this is just one of the many great offerings that Contempo has, but look at that. This box is made of 100% hemp. You know, I'm not lying. It says it on the box, right? We don't need to get into Tommy Boy here, but Contempo comes from 40 years of packaging background, servicing the top brands in the world of fashion, and has over 4 years of cannabis packaging experience. They work with many of the largest operators in the industry for their 100% hemp offering is just one of their many offerings. And I know that because they're spread out across my desk here, right? We've got these for tinctures. I never even took the rubber bands off those because you guys know I don't mess with tinctures. This would be a really cool case for edibles, almost like your old Altoid containers. I'm sure that's very nostalgic for some of you. You want dog walkers? We got a little dog walker case, right? You want more half-gram pre-rolls? We got cases for half-gram pre-rolls right here. This one's actually pretty cool. This is something I would probably continue to use. You need something for your disposable vape carts? Boom, we got you covered. We've got beautiful eighth jars. Wouldn't this stand out on the shelf? I think I'd buy it. And then we've got these are also for vape cartridges, but candidly, like I said, it'd be a really cool thing just to put a joint in instead of a tube. Check them out as contempospecialtypackaging.com. Again, you can see them at contempospecialtypackaging.com and tell them that Todd sent you. All right, folks. Now let's get into this show. So I talked earlier about the ecosystem of companies popping up around the cannabis industry. And this is what I'm really excited to see because this is where we become more mainstream. So as somebody who is proud to be in this industry, I'm very open about it as of more lately. I'm always looking for things that kind of complement what I do. We have it in all other walks of life. There's always accessories that you can buy. So back in the day when I wanted a joint case, right, it's funny, I would definitely take something like this Contempo piece, right? And I would open it up and I would just put my joints in there. So candidly, this is the one that I used right here, this Lowell Smokes container. I would roll up joints. I'd put them in there. I kept the matches in there, and this was my joint case, right? And here I am going around with another company's box as my fancy case. And that was kind of annoying. So I'm like, there's got to be something better. So I went into the world of cigarette cases and I ended up finding this ugly monstrosity on Amazon. It sucks. I gotta be honest. Like everything was falling out. It wasn't fun. It's actually pretty ugly. It looked cooler online. So there was nothing I can find. I couldn't find anything high end. I couldn't find anything that I really liked until I met a new friend of mine who introduced me into the world of more higher end cannabis accessories. Right. So at that point, I started looking at things in the tobacco industry that you had to repurpose. Right. So I ended up finding this beautiful cigarello case by ST DuPont, right? It fits cannabis beautifully in there. Cannabis has a distinct smell to it, and this does not cover that smell. Beyond that, I'm typically someone who smokes half a joint at a time, right? It's just a habit of mine. There's nowhere to put a half extinguished joint here without ruining the smell of the others. They're kind of coexisting in there. So as great of a piece as this was definitely not the end all be all. I happen to be having lunch with that friend, and they took this out of their pocket. This is called the Voyager Twin by Freeminded, right? And this to me was one of the coolest things that you can have because it's literally 2 tubes banded together by a piece of leather. And I don't mean to simplify it, but this is what we've been carrying cannabis joints in or pre-rolls in forever, a tube. So why reinvent the wheel? Let's just take what we already know, make it better, make it nicer, and make it a piece that when you take it out of your pocket, people are going to talk about. So you're able to put your stuff in here. It protects them nicely. It looks cool. It's a conversation piece. And for someone like me who smokes half, you can put it back in, and then even the cool thing is it opens up down here. So if the ash or anything else starts to build up, you can go in there and clean it out. Candidly, to me, this is one of the most perfect pieces that you can have as a cannabis accessory, right? So with that being said, I reached out to the founder of this company and told him, hey man, I love your stuff. I would love to feature you. I think that you have a great product. I'd love to get into your background and tell your story. So if you haven't figured out who today's guest is the founder of the company that makes this very product. Please welcome Todd Wayne, the founder of Freeminded. Todd, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Todd. Pleasure to talk to you today.
Absolutely, man. No, the pleasure is all mine because I really love what you're doing. And of course, you have all your beautiful products laid out on the table there. I would personally love to just come shop and start picking those off the table and taking them home with me. But, this is a very high-end luxury product, but that's your background, right? So give me a little bit, kind of the brief summary of your background and what kind of inspired you to start this company. And then we'll go deeper from there.
I was fortunate when I was a young kid growing up in the 70s. My stepfather was in the fashion industry as a manufacturer. So he would drag me into the office and I would pick and pack and ship and do some sales as a young man. When I went off to school and I came back, he was running a swimwear manufacturer and I ended up being a salesman. I was running the warehouses, working in the factories, and I was doing all the jobs in a manufacturing business. Unfortunately, my dad's business went out of business and I ended up going into sportswear. I went into men's shirts, and around 33 years ago, I walked into a recruiter and I said, hey, listen, I need a job. Could you find me an opportunity? And he goes, why don't you work for me? You know the industry so well that you could be a fashion recruiter. And I said, that's a great idea. So for the last 32 years, I worked for this gentleman for 4 years. And then after 4 years, I went off on my own and I worked for the finest designers on the planet. I work around the world. I place all the atelier rooms, all the production managers, all the design teams, all the fabric R&D, quality control, anything that has to do with a runway show, that's my people. So if it's the Oscars or the Academy Awards, or if it's just the Met Gala, my pattern makers, my designers, they've all created this product. And I've been doing this for a long time and I'm a little burnt out for doing it. It's selling the same people for 30 some odd years. I've owned my own business now in February, I'm going 33 years. And I've watched so many companies that come up with concept and they fall apart because they just don't understand how the machine works. Because I come out of the industry, because I've worked with all these design teams, I have relationships in Japan and England, in Paris, in Italy, the pattern makers, the production managers, the design teams from Chanel, Prada, anything that is royalty and couture is applicants that have come past my desk through my career. So going back to the beginning of the story, I'm a believer that you can't go into business unless you know what you're doing, because you're going to lose your shirt, literally. But because I have all these relationships and I may not understand exactly how things happen, but I placed this designer 20 years ago. I placed this pattern maker 30 years ago. My relationships are so deep and so strong with these people that it's now free information for me. I could just pick up a phone and say, hey, I need to do this. Where do I go? I don't have to research it. They bring me to the best. They bring me to the best factories in the world. They bring me to the best shippers in the world, the best packaging companies in the world. So I have a skill or a tool that most people would never acquire. It's just a vast knowledge of relationships that I built up for the last 30 some odd years. So with that said, I've taken this knowledge and I'm starting to get bored in selling these people for so many years, and I want to do something different. 6, 7 years ago, I went into grassroots in Colorado, and my mind was blown away. I've been a cannabis user since I've been a little boy, and I just could not believe that a dispensary could even look like this. And my mind really got blown away because as a young kid, for me to transport this stuff, I was hiding it underneath the floorboards of my car.
Yeah.
My friends got arrested when I was a kid. So, it was not something that you could really outwardly show to the public and be proud of it. It was a product that you had to hide. So to go into grassroots and see like a little Neiman Marcus of cannabis, I just couldn't believe my eyes. So I left that with an experience that I don't know, I almost probably was in my mid 50s when I saw that. And I'm like, for the last 40 years, it's been hidden underneath the tables, and now it's publicly being seen. Ralph Lauren had a huge layoff, and I helped them build their line called Double RL, which was a very beautiful line that Ralph liked. It was his baby. He was taking belts for like, I don't know, $500 and then putting these chemical processes on it. And then these things would look like they came from the 1800s. And the production teams and their atelier teams and their pattern makers, they got let go in a huge layoff. And I saw this gentleman come past my desk, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then I'm a cigar smoker, so I'm in Nat Sherman on 42nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to one of the gentlemen behind the counter, goes, is there anything for cannabis back here? Because cannabis is resonating,
Yeah.
And he shows me a little tiny case like what you just showed the public, and there was nothing in that. But at that point, I had an epiphany, and I just said, oh my God, I think I figured out something. I could be the Hermes, the Chanel, the Gucci of cannabis. I have the relationships. I could build this stuff, I could do this. It's simple. So for like a year, I just advertised for cannabis designers and just let them bring me inspiration boards and see what they came up with. I was sketching, I was coming up with concepts, and we were making samples. And for the last 4 years, I've been executing this product in design concept. And on top of design concept, I was giving it to certain people that I respected in the industry that understood the product, understood the techniques of the product, and also how it functioned, because I was doing functional, beautiful art. I wasn't just making a tube. I wanted something that was beautiful, it was functional, it was art, it was crafted beautifully. And on top of that, I wanted to build something that my industry, my accessory people would look at it and say, oh my God, this is done perfectly. I wouldn't do it any differently. You have the craftsmanship, you have the beauty, you have the artwork, and that's how I built this company.
Very cool, man. I mean, I've had the benefit of seeing a lot of your products in the Higher Standard store in New York, was able to touch them firsthand. I have this Voyager on my desk. Like I said, I think there's some of the nicest things that I've seen in the industry. Your background and the story to get to where you are is very intriguing, right? Had my father not sold his business in the fashion industry and moved to Florida and opened a mechanic shop, I think our childhoods would have been very similar, because, by the time I was old enough to come in and start working with him and doing some of that, he was a mechanic. He wasn't in the fashion industry, but I know he had an office very close to where you were as well. It's interesting because you said after that you were trying to, you went to a recruiter, they offered you a job, and that kind of started your business that you've ran for the past 33 years. There's a lot of different types of people in this industry, right? There are the people that have been in cannabis forever, that have made all the sacrifices for us to be there. So a lot of us like you and me, who have been huge cannabis aficionados and love this industry, could take the skill set that we've built elsewhere and bring it here, right? But at the end of the day, there's no difference between anybody. I mean, obviously what we were doing was legal, so we're not taking that risk. But as far as the entrepreneurship side of it, right? It is a risk, and it's hard to make that decision to do it because you're sitting in that recruiter's office and he offers you a job, and it's very easy for you to take that job, do well at that job, probably make a good amount of money, become comfortable, and just continue being at that job, making that amount of money because you're comfortable and you've done so well that it's easy and you don't really have to work that hard in that job. But instead you took the route that less travel and said, hey, I can do this on my own. And that means for the same amount of work that I'm doing, I get to take a bigger piece of the pie. And not only that, for the past 33 years, because it's been your business, because everything has been on your name and your word, you've been able to be in a position where you can start something that's also another passion project years later in life. I know it's been a while, but go back, to when you got that job offer and when you started becoming a recruiter. Where were the signs of what made you take the decision to go and start your own business versus just continue to work for that one?
I have two things to say there. I find in life when your body starts giving you pain and you have a lot of you're uncomfortable. There is something going on chemically inside you that's irritating you or frustrating you. I'm the kind of guy that takes that pain and starts looking at it and saying, what's going on internally? I don't want to run away from it. I want to explore what's going on, and I want to go past that. And I find every time that I'm uncomfortable, I always have education behind me because I've challenged myself. So with that said, my stepfather also said to me, when you get to a job and there's a watermark, meaning there's no more future, you need to go look for something else. So I like a challenge. I'm very calibrated in what I do. I do things with spontaneity, but I don't jump. I analyze behind me. So actually the story is a little bit longer than the actual story I told you. I went there and he offered me a commission salary of $150 a week. And I told him no. And I went back to my job. And a year later, I renegotiated the deal and I got a larger commission, which is a draw against commission. It wasn't a salary. You had to sell. All right. And after you sold a product, he gave you so much money. And then if you couldn't sell after 10 weeks, you didn't have a salary anymore. So I renegotiated my deal a year later, but I calibrated myself and I educated myself. Is this something I really wanted to do? I'm a good salesperson, but at the end of the day, it's not about being a good salesperson. It's about being honest. It's about, being dedicated to your product. It's about being loyal to your customers. It's about always giving the right face to people, It's the success that I've in my career, and even my product that I'm using, American alligator. I'm using stingrays, right? I'm using calf skins. I'm doing vegan stuff. But it's all about the quality and it's the workmanship, I don't want to skimp on anything. I want it to be perfect. You're coming to me because I build and design and create a beautiful luxury product. It's not about, oh, I can make it $20 cheaper if I don't do it this way. I'm a customer. I've created an accessory line that nobody's ever created before, which is a luxury cannabis accessory line. It's a brand new category. There's nobody in the industry that's doing this at the level that I'm doing it at. One of the things is when I was exploring how I want to do this business, I started to go to all the cannabis dispensaries. I went to LA and to Colorado and ran into 50 dispensaries in a weekend, right? I went to all the head shops in New York, which we have tons of them. And there was nothing that I saw that replicated anything that I have here at any level. I went to Neiman Marcus. I went to, Barney's in New York when they were around. I went to Bergdorf's. I went to every major retailer in Manhattan to see if anybody was doing these luxury products. And nobody's doing it. which is a beautiful thing on my end. And it's a very tough market for me to break into
Yeah.
because, I find that if I go into these retailers, they love my product, they think it's amazing, but I'm the only person in the category. So how do they bring me into the store at this point?
Yeah.
So, I'm finding like higher end and one or two other companies are looking at me and love my product, but at the end of the day, I'm a young company. I'm 5 years old, but I've only shown the public my product since January, since I launched my website. So it's been a very interesting process.
Well, I'm very glad that I discovered it. Like I said, you are one of the first people that I've seen doing it for sure. I'm curious to know how you came up with the idea for a lot of the collection. Like, so candidly, you see this, it is the joint tube is a staple of the industry, and to just make it much nicer, make it premium, make it more of a conversation piece. I feel like that was the low hanging fruit, and that was the easy thought. I'm not saying that it's not a great product. It is, I think, one of the best products that you have. But to me, just the inspiration for it, a little bit on the easier side. Now we look at the other higher end accessories that you have that are geared toward both joint storage. It's geared towards rolling, and trays involved. People, you take into consideration people who aren't good at rolling, and there's a way to fill cones within your products as well too. So does that come more from personal experience? Did you just kind of scour the interwebs and see what is out there, regardless of what it looks like, that I can take inspiration from and then make it with nicer materials and maybe improve upon it a little bit? Just give me a little bit of the process, because like I said, this one, I think we can figure that out, but everything else that you have, the beautiful cases that are kind of tilted forward, how did you get the idea for those?
As a young kid smoking joints and bowls, I'm very familiar with the product. I've been living with this product since the early 60s. So I get it. I know it. I've lived it. I'm living it. So to build around it is very simple. You have these beautiful cigarette cases that you found on the internet. I use the Marlboro case. I'd smoke a Marlboro and then I put my joint in there, and that would be my carrying case for it. To build it and to design it, I come up with the idea, I come up with the concept, and then I go to people who I respect and I field test the crap out of it. Okay. My diplomatic pouch, I wish I had all the samples sitting in front of you. The most probably is like maybe a dozen. It cost me between $1,000 and $1,500 a sample to make it. And to give you an example of something, this case originally was just a piece of leather, and I had some zippers in it trying to put a stash together. And I sent this out to my testers, and then what was happening is everything was connected to the product.
Very cool.
And they were rolling on it.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because I have an idea. If anybody is watching and you want a better view of these products while we're talking about it, head over to freeminded.co, freeminded.co. You're probably watching this on your phone, or you're probably watching this on your computer. So just pull up the website and you can see the products as Todd and I talk about them. So problem solved. Todd, go on. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no problem. What I was saying is that I would send it out to my field testers, and they would say to me, hey, we like this, but you can make this better, or can you add this to the product? If you want, I can show you one product that will really give you some details on how things came together.
Absolutely.
So this is called my diplomatic pouch. Everything is magnetic.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Everything is magnetic. This is American alligator. I do it in beautiful calf skin, French calf skin, in a black, and a gold, and a beautiful blue. But originally, this was just a piece of leather, and I had zippers inside, and I would have my cannabis in here, and I would have some folders that came out, and I would send this out to my testers, and they go, you need to make this removable so it's easier to work with. So I have this storage box, and in the storage box, I didn't have any dividers. I didn't have this beautiful cornelia material that's inside. this material has been field tested. You can take a bowl after you light it, as long as it's not burning hot, you can actually touch it to the material and it's not going to burn.
That's
and
great.
also it also holds the hemp back. So this way the hemp's not going to stick to it. This is a storage box. You can put your joints in there. You can fill it completely up with cannabis. You won't smell it. I have this beautiful seal on the side so it locks in the smell. This takes a man to build this diplomatic pouch a whole week just to make one.
Wow.
So originally this did not have the storage compartments, and they kept on saying, well, the storage compartment would be great. This way you can put your product in it. It doesn't mess up. You can keep everything together. So it's just really field testing. This is completely lined inside, so you can put your credit cards in on both sides. Completely magnetic. This will hold actually one of your joint tubes. You can put a vape pen inside these joint tubes, which is really cool.
Huh.
So this is
I
a
wouldn't
Beboo.
even have thought of that. That's really cool.
So you can put a vape pen inside that if you like and lock it down. This is the genius behind the product, is this piece here. So I wanted to put rolling papers, an easy place to keep rolling papers. So I have my tray, I have filters. I'm not going to pull this out, but this is my grinding card. And on back of the grinding card, you have tools. And on back of the tools will pop out. And all you do is you take this tray and you open it up. And I have that material on top of it, so it slides really easy. But originally when I made it, it was just a piece of leather. And then they said they need something that slides better. And then they wanted something that had an edge on it. So the cannabis, when you were rolling it, because when you're rolling a joint, you need to have an edge.
Yeah, you do.
All right. When you're doing the pre-rolls, you don't really need that. But when you're rolling a joint, you have to have that. And then the other thing is that, well, what do you do for cones? So I came out with something with a funnel.
That's really cool.
So now you have the funnel, you have the tube, and I'll show you here how this all works. Let me walk over to the camera.
All right. I got to tell you, man, you can tell that that this was designed by somebody who uses cannabis because of the little touches, right?
So you take the filter, you take the joint tube, you open it up, and then you take your tool and you start stashing it in.
Very cool. That's awesome. I know a lot of
nice thing
people who
about
can't
that-
roll.
Yeah, well, you can just stuff it in. It's so simple. Let's see. Well, I knocked it down, but the concept is that you have it there, and then you just keep on bringing it down into the tube.
Well, most people won't be on camera while they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can do it on camera. You can do it easy.
Yeah.
But it's that simple, And then the nice part about it is that when you're done rolling it, it's very easy just to take your cannabis and slide it back into a container.
Yeah.
Everything falls back. It's easy. It just slides. This is oregano.
Oh, you got to find a new guy to get it from then.
I'm in New York.
So
it's easy here.
So we will get into that in a second, but Todd, I mean, so like going back to what I said while you were filling that cone is you really took a lot of little details that you don't necessarily see when you first look at the piece, right? So when you take it out, it looks like a beautiful luxury item, and candidly, by first look, and especially on the internet without being able to feel, I would imagine that the interior of that case gets pretty nasty when you put everything in it and you use it over time. But after the description you telling me about where it doesn't stick, it's not going to burn.
Shouldn't get nasty. And the other thing also is that I've used all these corrosive chemicals, I call it, which is THC, CBD. I think the strongest chemical is nicotine. Yeah. So that was one of my biggest concerns. Like on this product, which is my vape case, I have something, a Turkish lamb. I most probably field tested this 24 times with different chemical processes, because I didn't want to give somebody whose mind gets altered when they use the product that they went out and bought a luxury product and then they destroyed it.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to give them a product that, they could abuse a little bit, not a lot, but they could abuse it. And, doing these tests with the THC and the CBDs and the oil, saliva, or even Windex, that you can rub the leathers, the linings, and you're not going to destroy it. I think if you leave the chemical on it for a day or two, yeah, you most probably, it'll corrode at some point. But, if you make a mistake and you wake up in the morning and you look at your case, you should be in good shape, One of the thought processes that I had is that the mind gets altered when the person is using it. So I always wanted to keep, almost everything together as one. I didn't want pieces to come apart and then left behind.
I think that's genius. And I love the way that it magnetizes together, because like you said, there's a lot of times when you have specialty cases like that, and it's still, especially if that tray was still attached to the outer casing, you'd have to pick up the whole thing and it would be clunky. But to have the forethought to make it separate, like I said, those are the little details. Even on this one, on the Voyager, the fact that I can open up the bottom little cup here, right, and be able to clean out the inside, because I do put a lot of half joints in there. This makes this piece all the better, because over time you put enough ash joints in there, they're going to start smelling and tasting like that, and then this piece would be useless, right? And
well, the concept behind that is when I was a kid and I ran out of product, I'd be scraping my bowls and smoking the resins out of it,
Yep.
So I knew there's a little bit of extra stash on the bottom. So after a bunch of joints, you most probably can get a hit out of it. So I figured, let me see if I can unscrew it so you can clean it, but you can also get a hit off of it.
I love that it is a couture product, but still has a little thing in it for the nostalgia from smoking cannabis as well too.
Absolutely. It's a luxury product now, but I think with cannabis, everybody's starting to grow it. New York, you can have 3 plants, mature, 3, juvenile. Everybody's going to roll their own joints. I think the taxes are going to be huge on this product. And I think if they have the ability to roll joints, my product's perfect for that,
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely perfect for that.
I love the case and everything else, but candidly, the way that I typically do it is I like to roll my joints at home, not out in the wild, which is why I love this. And I'm probably planning on picking up 1 or 2 more of these, because they are incredible, right? Like I said, to me, this is nicer than the leather cigar cases that kind of clamshell together as well too. I joked around earlier saying like, hey man, I carry a lot of joints with me. Let's get one of these that clips 2 of them together just so I can get my quantity out there. But like I said, this is beautiful. And even to carry 2 of these together is not very cumbersome. And it is a beautiful, beautiful piece. You have the line that you have now. There is a ton of products that I think need an upgrade from the cannabis world. And like you said, I'm surprised that you went into the cigar shop. And I don't know if you actually expected them to have anything or not, because I wouldn't, but that's where I look to for a lot of the accessories that I buy for cannabis. I mean, I know you can't probably see it, but there's a Monte Cristo humidor behind me here on the desk. And there's a few cigars left over from when I used to smoke a lot more cigars, but there's cannabis in there, and there are rolled joints in there. And I was just having a conversation with our mutual friend, Eric, and I said, I'm going to convert that thing purely to just a joint humidor, because that's what I smoke.
Well, my company is going to be a lifestyle cannabis. It's not going to just be a leather accessory. I came out of the gate with this concept.
Mm-hmm.
I have so the business concept is, what do you do during the day?
Mm-hmm.
Single. What do you do on the weekend? You got a double.
There you go.
What do you do when you go away on the weekend?
You need to bring everything.
I wanted to have something that you can sit on your counter in your house, which is beautiful. And then you open it up and you can put all your, I'm trying to do, these are pure silver glass blown 1-hitters.
Oh, that's very cool.
Trying to develop these, before this was developed, which is my Voyager, I was doing, can you kill that? Somebody's trying to call me.
No worries. There we go.
I was trying to do one of these, which is removable caps. So this is originally one of the Voyagers. But the concept here is, what do you do? What do you take during the weekend? So you keep your cannabis in here, completely magnetic cap. It's lambskin wrapped, also magnetic. These are magnetic locks. So it opens and you can shake it. These are all made in Florence, Italy. French calf skin, Turkish lamb skin. Inside is movable. So the concept is, what do you do during the day? What do you do during the weekends? What do you do when you travel? And then the next concept is, what do you do when you get home?
Yeah.
What is the products that you have home? And it's not just for cannabis, it's for edibles, it's for oils, it's the whole gamut of cannabis, and that's where I'll be designing the line into other areas. For me, it needed to come out of the gate with this concept,
I think it's a great concept to come out of the gate with, and in the way that you explain it is perfect because you have something for each part of the week. I mean, do you have any other designs that you're working on or that you're thinking of? Like, how does that happen from this point on? Because you have the basic line. Does it come out of a need that you have in your personal life where you're like, damn, I wish I had one of these. All right, let's just make one.
So, being an entrepreneur, being a businessman, and having a lot of friends that give you great advice, they were just saying to me, Todd, you got to stop designing.
Yeah.
You got to launch it. You got to get some return on your capital. But a designer, somebody that's creative, their mind never stops. So I go into developmental processes and I'm like, well, if my line takes off, then let me have another product that I've designed to bring to the table for the next launch. So I just got this last week. This is most probably the first product that I thought of, but I couldn't find a factory to make it for me. Again, I'm a cigarette smoker, a cigar smoker, okay? So I'm in Florence, Italy. I'm gonna come to the camera because this is what's impressive.
I wish I was in Florence, Italy recently too.
This product here is my inspiration from smoking cigars. Okay,
very
you can
much
see
looks
how
like
small
a
it
traditional
is.
cigar case.
All right, and now this is not done cheaply because if you buy a cheap cigar case, there's no fold in here. All right,
Yeah.
they do a straight sheath on top of it. All right, but if you look, there's no stitching. It's zero stitch work.
Wow.
There's no stitch work on the side. There's no stitch work on the bottom. This is all done in Florence, Italy. There's no other place on the planet that does this kind of work. It's all done in these beautiful molds. This is crocodile. Okay, on top of being crocodile, you open it up, it's completely lined with my lining. And then the really cool thing is that I have this rosewood that I put inside as an insert. Okay, and you can put your joints in here.
That's cool.
But the really cool part about it is this. My assistant will turn the lights off. And it glows in the dark.
That's really cool. So you can find it when it's dark out.
So when you're in the club, and you can turn the lights off, black light will make it glow.
Very cool.
So this is one of the products that I'm doing. But you hit the topic. It's about the luxury. It's about bringing and elevating this product. My inspiration is Silver Peaks in Colorado. It was when I opened up a magazine and I saw Silver Peaks, I just couldn't believe that cannabis could be displayed this way. I went on my exploratory trip to see all the dispensaries out in California and also in Colorado, and I walked into Maxfield's, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I sat down with the buyer of Maxfield's and I asked her about what kind of cannabis products. And they were showing me old bottles and old silver things like Tiffany made. Yeah. And they just didn't have anything, So I went back and I said, what would be really cool is Willie Nelson's band is in town and their roadies go into Maxfield's and want to buy something for Willie, right? And then all of a sudden, they buy him a gift for a few $1,000s. And it's his birthday and they hand it to him and then he's using the product and he throws it down on the table and people say, what is that?
Yeah.
It's my storage compartment for my joints, which is just breathtakingly beautiful, So, and I looked at people who like to accessorize. People like shoes, belts, handbags, watches. It was just another product that they would like, something that they would respect, something that, they would be proud of and they would actually buy, it's not for just the head shop buyer. It's completely out of their realm.
And our industry is moving away from the head shop, and you know what, it served its purpose for a very long time, but it mixed a lot of different people from a lot of walks of life. You know, there is a traditional cannabis culture, but I don't believe that every cannabis aficionado or you know, enthusiast fits in the mold of that culture. We all appreciate it, we all understand and respect it, but you know, this, like you said, the way that the dispensaries look today, I mean, there's one in California that we work with that has the same counters as the Tiffany store in New York. I mean, they're just
Isn't that amazing?
exactly.
It's amazing.
They're just elevating it to another level. And I believe, you know, your product is perfect for the dispensary of the future, because that's what we're going to start seeing when we go into a cannabis store now, right? That's what Eric was doing when I met him at Higher Standards, was trying to get cannabis stores to have a big accessory section, because you don't need to go to another. This way, you buy your cannabis, you buy your weed, you get anything else that you need, whether it's papers or filters or glass or dab rigs or torches or butane or cleaning products or any of that. And then all of a sudden now you come into the fold and you have this nice, beautiful display of your products that's around maybe the higher end cannabis. Some of the things like Binsk that has packaging that looks like this from Contempo Specialty Packaging to see them, shoehorn them back in, but your product would complement that perfectly. And I can see it being a great impulse buy by someone who is on vacation in Colorado, or even people locally going in and be like, I would love to have that to show to my friends and everything else. So I'm excited to see that, hopefully see that happen for you, because to me, again, that's where this industry is going, where it needs to go. You know, I think
and Eric is very great in seeing, you know, where the industry needed to go to. And I was honored that he brought me into Malibu and brought me into Chelsea Piers, you know. Mm-hmm. And now Josh is running this side of the business, and they're excited about the product. You know, they see the innovation, they see the luxury, and Higher Standard stands for that. It's that luxury, you know, business that they want to be in, you know, so we both complement each other's very well. You know, we're also trying to do some co-branding together.
That's
you know,
great.
You know, I think maybe I got something in here I can show you. So they're going to be doing a co-brand with me. I hope that this thing goes together, but you know, I did a beautiful, beautiful joint tube for them, double with their logo on it, done it in the black gunmetal, right? And also like that Toomey leather, excuse me, the Toomey nylon.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that for them there. So we're co-branding in that. The other thing about my businesses and Total Luxury is that I want to get away from the marijuana leaf. There's nothing in my product that shows cannabis.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm a huge fan of the plant and everything else, but I don't. Listen, I've never worn a Coors Light shirt. I've never worn a Jack Daniel's shirt or anything else like that. It's just, I love all these products. I just don't.
I'm not Head Magazine, you know?
Yeah.
But you will find it in one place. Very, very, you won't see it unless I show it to you. It's in my packaging. I've actually taken the cannabis leaf and turned it in 4 different angles and did that in the packaging of my product. So if you get one of my products and you look at it, you can look very carefully and you'll see the leaves in there. That's the only place you'll ever see my stuff.
Is it the
square? I made a design out of it.
It's the square.
It looks like it's a square.
Yeah,
cool. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right in here.
I conveniently have it right in front of me.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll see it, but it's these little tiny.
You can see it on my end right here. I'm holding.
Yeah, it's these little tiny things.
Very cool. If you guys
so it's the emboss, but that's it. You know. So
see those, but that's where it's like a unique touch, right? Where it's, you know, it's incognito, so you know what it is.
But I wanted to be classy about it.
Mm-hmm. Very cool, Todd. Well, listen, man. The other thing that I want to talk to you about, because you're right in the heart of it, is, you know, we beyond just the business, get to know you a little bit. You've got to be blown away about what New York is doing with cannabis right now. You know, I was very scared with Cuomo leaving that it was going to somehow get lost in the mix. His replacement is coming in and saying that she's going to continue the charge towards it. I was recently in Manhattan in June. The ability to smoke cannabis on the streets, even though people have been doing that forever, you can do it and not feel scared about it or anything else. There are companies like Happy Monkey that are doing collaborations with the Van Gogh experience. And I've known the Vlad and the Happy Monkey guys for a while. And that kind of cool. Blows my mind that literally the Van Gogh experience is partnering with a cannabis company or a cannabis lifestyle company to throw these style events and encouraging people to consume cannabis. So you are in the heart of it all. Your products are clearly, you know what, the rest of the country is great, but they're clearly in the right city to where I think they'll do very well. You know, what's the most exciting thing for you about legalization in New York?
Well, I belong to the New York Association, so they do podcasts, and I listen to them, and I can voice my opinions to the attorneys, which is great. And it's nice to hear the laws. I think New York is going to write a set of laws that most probably the government's going to embrace and possibly make it legal, and take the rules and regulations that New York has put in place, and most probably use that for the country. I think if we go legal, if the Biden administration makes this product legal, it must probably be a lot of the New York laws that they're writing. They're really looking at for everybody. There's been a lot of mistakes, with all these other, cities and states, that it's been a wild west in some of these areas, and I think New York will figure it out really well. It's very interesting. I live in the city. I walk to work on 34th Street and 7th Avenue. There's not a day that I walk through the streets of New York that I don't catch a whiff of it at least 2 or 3 times coming to my desk. Oh, yeah. I think I'm waiting for the day that it goes legal, that I can go over to a policeman and ask him to light my joint.
I think that's sooner than later.
I think that's going to be by next year. I could do that.
I think,
and they won't bother you. De Blasio decriminalized it. He said that anybody that had a record for smoking cannabis, or getting caught with I don't know, an ounce or so, that he decriminalized it. He expunged your record. He didn't want you to have any problems trying to find a job. Read my blog. It's coming out in the next couple of weeks. In the next couple of days, my blog will come out. Okay. And it just talks about what, different states are doing, the transporting of cannabis. The TSA has made a statement that they're not looking for cannabis, but if they find it, they'll just report it to the local police department, So you're not going to get federally arrested by TSA. There's so many positive things that are coming out of it. It's just amazing. It's mind blowing to a guy that was hiding underneath his floorboards when he was a little kid.
I agree. A big part of the beginning of my journey in cannabis, I remember going up there to go see a Yankees Red Sox game. And the first time I ever had it delivered, by a guy with a backpack, and saw multiple strains and everything else, to now go there. And like you said, you smell it all over the place. It's incredible. And, if we can legalize it there, we can legalize it anywhere. They need to adopt that slogan. So
when I was a little kid, I would jump in the backseat of a stranger's car and buy 4 ounces from the guy, thinking I was going to get killed getting into the car to buy the stuff.
I'm glad we don't have to do that
anymore. It's a completely different experience. Yeah, but that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Listen, that's what we did.
I used to go to a kid who lived with his parents, and I was a young professional. I was 26, 27. I had a job. I would show up on my lunch break in slacks and a button down and walk into this kid's house through his parents' garage, and it would reek like weed. And I'm sitting there thinking, what am I doing with my life that I'm walking to some kid's house with his parents' home, some college kid buying marijuana? And then the fact that now I can go into a store, see it displayed in a case, pick what I want. I'm educated about it. I know what I like. I can talk about it. I'm nuanced about it, and I can check out. I mean, you still can't use a debit or a credit card, but the fact that I can buy it through a register like a human being is monumental.
What's really cool, which is illegal in New York, but we have home delivery services in New York. Yeah. So if you make a phone call and the right connection still, it's still underground here, because we don't have recreational. You got Madman right on 38th Street and 5th Avenue, but you need your medical marijuana card to go in there and grab some stuff. But I don't think they're selling flower. I think they're selling everything else except flower in there.
I think that's the New York program, but candidly, I think they had a huge opportunity. They missed a huge opportunity by getting a place on Madison, right? Even though it's MedMen, they named it after Mad Men, so why not be on Madison Ave? But
exactly. Well, they'll get more stores. There's no doubt.
I actually have a friend who grew up in New York who was telling me when they were kids, they would call the cannabis guy and they would call the pizza guy, and they would have them race each other to the house. And they said the cannabis guy always won.
They thought that. That's because they were eating pizza from last week.
Well, Todd, listen, we've been talking for an hour. It has been absolutely great speaking with you. I love learning about the company. Like I said, this is literally my favorite cannabis accessory. Thank you so much for it. I hope people go to your website. That's freeminded.co. Check out the entire collection. Buy something. Trust me, it's worth it. It comes beautifully presented. It is a conversation piece. I think it is well worth your money. Todd, before we let you go, anything you want to promote, anything you want to put out there, any final thoughts?
I thank you very much for this opportunity. The only thing I can say about my product, it's pricey, but there's a reason why it's pricey. I've done it right. I haven't cheapened anything. Everything that you look at, it's perfect. It's as beautiful as you can find a product. I do not want to make a presentation to people that all of a sudden it's fraying on one side, the leather's ripping on the other side, it's staining. I have to do it right. Again, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm going to be at the Shopper Object accessory show in another couple of days, and then I'll be at MJ Biz in Vegas in October. So really excited about doing that show. Hopefully you'll be there.
We will be at MJ Biz as well too. So I'd love to link up, see you in person. I want to come by, check out the rest of the stuff. Folks, go to freeminded.co. Buy one of these. I promise you they're worth the money. If you happen to buy one, tag us in it at EYG Podcast. I'd love to see it. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Let me know. Todd, thank you. And thank you to everybody at home for watching. I hope that you love these products as much as I do. I hope you learned something today. I hope Todd inspired you to follow your dreams. Folks, we're actually going to do a double episode. We're going to have one later today with Marion Mariathan. Marion, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your last name, from Simplify. The reason we're doing two live today is because I don't have the ability to record them and broadcast them yet. So sorry about that, everybody, but you're going to have to be stuck with me. If you missed any part of this episode, you can see it on our YouTube channel next week. I believe it'll be posted on Wednesday. That is youtube.com/elevateyourgrind. Please like and subscribe, like the crap out of this episode. Go to freeminded.co, buy something, folks. We will see you later today, and have a good one.